Today on the show, we'll be revisiting the legendary 2021 WNBA Draft that saw Charlie Collier go number one overall. Is she the biggest bust in league history, and who would go number one if we could redraft this class in 2025? Let's get right into it.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are Locked On Women's Basketball. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name is Hunter Cruse. I'm your Saturday host covering the WNBA Draft and Prospect Scouting. Today I'm joined by my co-hosts Emily Adler and Lincoln Shafer. Emily covers draft hosts on player development and the game within the game. Lincoln also contributes to our draft coverage here at Locked On Women's Basketball and The Next. To kick it right off to start, what is your outlook on this draft in 2021? How it was kind of seen then, just to start and kind of introduce this class to where it's at now.
So this class was actually the first one in which I was doing any kind of public looking. It was the first class where I was watching women's basketball, actually. At the time, it was pretty clear that this was not a good draft. Even without knowledge of sort of how WNBA history works, it was very clear coming in that you had, I would say, about 5 players worth really considering, and maybe a couple more who it could turn out that they had skills. It could turn out that they had contact, like developmental or team context that would help them thrive. But it was very clear that this was going to be shallow. And there was also, on the very mainstream side of things, there was very clear consensus about who the number one was. But a little bit within the industry, and also especially on sort of the less sort of legacy media mainstream side, this was a very contentious class for like who is number one, what is the actual what should be the lottery order here, and we'll get to how that turned out.
This is one of the fun classes where you get to look back and go, oh, the risers were not very good, and the draft day fallers were also not very good. So I like to I've pitched series based off of draft day riser, draft day faller, and see what happened there. This is not a useful draft for that because none of them were good.
Right. I think the question for that is relative to each other is the more prudent point. This is the like one of the historical outlier drafts, along with what is it, 2005?
2005 and 2000 are the 3 worst drafts in WNBA history.
Sounds about right to me.
And the only other argument to break into that top 3 is I think 2007, but like there's been a couple weaker classes that are balanced out by the 2004, 2016, 2019, 2008 that are like multiple Hall of Famer classes. 2001, of course, is the best one.
Yeah, and pretty much. And even with something like 2007, the number one overall pick, like being a top
perfectly
6
fine guard.
Yeah, well, especially for that time period, like a top 6, 7 starting point guard in the league for like 12 years or however long she was, like that kind of off. That's not what we're looking at in this draft.
No.
Okay, to kick it off, who is your number one ranked prospect if you had to redraft this in 2025?
I think most people listening will probably agree with me, and I think this is going to be different than what y'all have. I have DiJonai 1.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth. I think 3 players with a real argument, a real case to go number 1.
Let me guess, 2 of them weren't actually drafted.
This is what makes this class so unique, is that the 3 best players in hindsight were all taken outside of the top 19. They were 20 undrafted.
Maybe 4.
Yeah, you could argue that as well.
I do want to give an argument that Oakawir and Endless Potential is still there.
Yeah, I mean, I actually... sorry to interrupt. No, I mean, I have her on my list somewhere, despite the fact that she was never good. in the
There
W.
is a slight argument that you can still bet on the upside. She hasn't really shown it in the WNBA, but you see the tools: 6'4", 6'5", long ball skills, and just oozing with talent. Has never been able to put it together in the WNBA. Still young. Didn't play this year. Hopefully, she could really help Dallas.
This is one of those classes where there's so little depth in terms of being good. We also have to evaluate players, like, just to even get to 10. It's, well, were any of these players good overseas?
Right.
I mean, they might be better than insert first round bust here. Shyla Hill, Chelsea Dungy, Renaya Davis. We'll get there.
Yeah. So I really think that there's an argument for Awak Queer at 1. The other 3 being Janelle Salon, Golden State Valkyrie, DiJonai Carrington, and Monica Komakani, who are all good players in the WNBA this year. There's more of a sample size with DiJonai, which is probably where I'd give her the edge over the other 2. But these are like the 3 clear best players in this class as of right now in the WNBA.
This should be no surprise to anybody because I think I had this take a year ago. Like a year ago, I'm like, I would have taken Janelle Salon number 1 in a redraft before she ever even sniffed the WNBA team, a roster. The crazy thing is, if you look back to her pre-draft year, if I was doing this, I know that I would have had her on my board, even though she was averaging 3 points per game. But she shot 50, 39, 81 playing in the French league at 19. And also a couple months after the draft in U20s, she averaged 17 points per game and 10 rebounds on 70% from 2 over 5 games. So she was talented.
Seems good.
She just kind of slipped through the cracks. And I
Yeah.
think
This is the kind of player that I'm really excited when we get to cover them, where it's like, hey, here's someone who's obviously good. By cover them, I mean put them on our contemporaneous draft boards. Obviously, the archetype for us now is Olede Kosu, but it is hey, this player peripherals, tape, very obviously a solid, good player who should probably be drafted. And a lot of the time, it's just do front offices, do public side people, they just never seen the name before, and you just need someone to say it.
Like if it was 2025, she would be drafted. Even just the profile as a youth player.
Yeah, which just speaks to how much the league and the industry side of things has changed in just 4 years.
Yeah, unless you were a clear star, MVP at one of the U19 events, or you're one of the 3 best players, you're not going to get drafted.
Australian.
Or Australian. Yeah,
you get a free boost from being Australian.
But just the pitch for Janelle Salon over DiJonai Carrington, I have DiJonai at 2, but the reason I have Salon a little bit higher is I'm very concerned about DiJonai's archetype and how it breaks down deep in the playoffs and what that means for winning.
Yeah, you and Stephanie White.
Because I'm not too high on just the feel, the processing, the passing ability. The finishing is a huge concern. How does she add value in the half court on offense when the game slows down is my main concern with her game. With Janelle Salon, I think you see a lot of the shot creation, the shot making from 3. There's obvious worries about the overall shot selection at times, but you have the same concerns with DiJonai Carrington, and Salon's just bigger. Not as good of a defender, obviously, but I just think that she's being overtaxed right now. If you put her in a more simplified role where she's just strictly you're Michael Porter Jr., you just have her just run around, shoot threes.
If you play her next to the greatest offensive player of all time,
Hey, you know where she would fit really nicely? In the Akoa Makani role in Phoenix.
Oh,
that'd be sick.
Wait. Wait. Doesn't make any sense. Akoa Makani is a point guard.
It's not the same exact role. I'm just saying next to Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah, it's
I see what you're saying.
It's the complementary Alyssa Thomas role,
which
is what DiJonai did.
I'm now considering the alternate universe in which the Indiana front office is remotely good at scouting, both pro scouting and amateur scouting, and pays any attention to the fact that there are other continents on this globe, and they signed Janelle Salon because Salon next to
that's what I wanted.
Next to Caitlin would have been insane.
That was my number 1 spot for her.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah. Again, literally take the MPJ archetype, put him next to the greatest offensive player of all time. See what happens.
and the crazy thing is, there's no chance they reached out to her because if you go to
No.
Janelle's agent and you say, "Hey, do you want to play with Caitlin Clark?" Do you think she's gonna say,
Well,
"Oh
what
yeah,
a-
I'd rather go to Golden State"? With
I
no,
mean,
like,
the way that they're playing DB, that's basically what Salon is good at. And I've written before. We've all talked before about how bad Indiana approached this offseason and what they've been asking square pegs to fit in round holes. But that's not the point.
yeah, I made the same point as well with Las Vegas. Like, you tell her you can
Yes.
play with Asia Wilson in the front court. Like, what you should
Yeah, dude.
say no.
She'd be their best front court option next to Asia immediately.
Best front court option next to Asia since Kansas.
Yeah, like, one of the best they've had ever.
But yeah. I mean, so I have Salon third.
I have them
Mostly
all on
on
the same tier.
Yeah, I mean, I have at most a half grade difference between DiJonai, Monika Makani, and Salon. You know, it's how much can you stick on the court on both ends. I mean, I don't love Salon's defense enough at the moment to think about her, sticking as much. So I have it 1 DiJonai, 2 Makani, and 3 Salon. But yeah, it's basically a dead heat.
Yeah, there's plenty of it's a reasonable argument to put those 3 in any order at the top.
How would you
Pretty
order
much.
Lincoln?
I think I would have Carrington, Solonico, Makani 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, for me it's Salon, Carrington, Akoa, Makani.
Quick thought, don't dwell on this too much. It just came to mind based on the way you're describing DiJonai. Is DiJonai kind of like the floor comp for Flage, just with like
there's no
plus a little pull up jumper?
No. There's no shot. She's that offensively limited. The shooting's just way too good. Like, spot up shooting.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think we've seen enough sample of the last 2 years for me to just be like, yeah.
That's fair.
But let's once we get back, I want to continue on with the rest of this redraft. We'll go the rest of the first round, 4 through 12. Olipop is a new kind of soda made for people who love the classic taste of soda, but want something that supports their health. With just 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can, Olipop is reimagining soda in a way that's better for your gut. Traditional sodas are loaded with sugar, like 39 grams in a regular Coke or 44 in an orange Fanta. With Olipop, it flips the script with just a fraction of the sugar, no artificial sweeteners, and gut-friendly ingredients like OliSmart. Get a free can of Olipop. Just buy any 2 cans in the store and they'll reimburse you for 1. Head to drinkolipop.com/lockedonnba to claim your free can and find Olipop near you. That's drinkolipop.com/lockedonnba. All right, we're back to continue on. Let's talk a little bit more about Monika Makani here before we get to the rest of the redraft. What have we seen about her game this season, and how do you think, do you have any comparisons as far as this archetype, the player, how it fits into winning context as well?
She plays defense. She shoots threes when she's open at a high level. She can run a little pick and roll, and just doesn't really make that many mistakes. She's just a very solid role player and brings a steadiness to Phoenix's starting lineup that has been very important for them, missing almost all of their stars at different points in the season so far.
She's like era-adjusted Jasmine Thomas.
Yeah, that feels right.
That's the upside, at least.
Yeah. More threes, maybe not quite the level of defender.
I wouldn't say more threes. Possibly a better rate of threes. Certainly better on open threes. More juice.
Yeah.
Do you know where she played in her pre-draft year?
Wasn't it in Africa?
No, she played in Asvel. She played with Yosite.
I got the first letter correct.
She was on that team with both Marines actually, and Yuste was also on that team as like a what? 14-year-old.
14-year-old.
So they were playing together, which is like the perfect complementary player, I guess, to her game and in the
That's fun.
in the modern time. But yeah, in that year, she wasn't playing a whole lot in her pre-draft year. She played 24 games, averaged 2 to 3 points per game, and 1 rebound. And did not
So
get
you're saying she
picked.
might not have been on our roster or on our radar exactly?
Yep. And then also that you got to kind of factor in that she's not from France, Spain,
A
one of the major.
traditional basketball powerhouse in the youth scene.
Yeah,
Yep.
that she just wasn't gonna want to get picked.
Yeah.
Number 4. This is where it opens up a lot. Who's your number 4 player in this redraft?
I have someone who was just cut from a roster. Well, waived.
Yeah.
We both have Aaron?
Released from.
Yes.
Released from.
Not waived.
Not waived.
Not waived.
Yeah,
Sorry, Jacob.
This is another spot where I have an argument for 3 players. Ari McDonald is the top of the list to me. Just a solid point guard. Does what you need her to do. Attacks the rim. Plays defense. Can hit an open jumper every once in a while. Just an all right role player that teams need.
Her currently being unemployed reminds me of like the year or like 6 months where like Lindsay Allen was unemployed. Where it's like, here is the bare minimum. I shouldn't say bare minimum, but here is a slightly above replacement level point guard who could, provide steady point guard play, which the league generally doesn't have enough of for all 13 teams. Where'd the choose a free agent?
The problem is teams would rather have 5 to 6 centers than have 3 point guards. Like, how many teams have 3 point
Namely,
guards?
the team that just had to waive her.
Like, yeah, there's like
Release,
almost
sorry,
any
release.
almost any team with 3 point guards, and
Yeah.
yes, she's small, but I mean she adds value.
Yeah, the height also doesn't really matter
She's
given
so
her
s-
defense.
She's so strong too. It's like
Strong. To be clear, I have 5 different players with a 45 on them, but Ari I think is very clearly, to me, above the rest.
yes, I think areas was just like you said, the scarcity of the point guard position, where the other players are more as just kind of fitting in where they do.
Also
Yeah.
get to mention that she had maybe the greatest single tournament run of any guard in like prospect history. She was like 2 shots away from beating Stanford by herself in the national championship game, and just one of the greatest tournament runs we've ever seen.
Ari McDonald gave that head coach like 4 years of extra run.
And a
That head
new
coach.
job at SMU.
Yeah. For me as well, Ari at 4. Number 5, who is it for you guys?
Mikhail Onyenwere for me.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
I have
I-
Natasha Mack at 5.
I was about to say, at number 5, I have the
Yeah.
player who at the time I ranked number 1, Natasha Mack.
Mac is also in conversation at 5.
Yeah,
It's
we're talking about
very
players
close
the same
between
grade.
Mac and Onyenwere. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 45s. We're talking about players who contribute to good teams in possible ways if you give them small roles. We're talking about players who don't really hurt you whether you're trying to win or lose if you are already a bad team. I think that extends to the next couple, at least for me, the next couple players, which we might start to diverge here.
What have you seen from Natasha Mack in the last couple seasons? Because she's one player where she was drafted. Did she even play a game? Like she played like what 3-4 games,
Yeah.
and then
For
she's
2 different
back-
teams.
Then she's
7
back like
minutes
2
total.
years. She doesn't
Across
come
2
around. Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, she looks like a player who has very good defensive tools and played most of her college seasons at a JUCO. Like that's who she is, and that's also what she looks like. She is long. She has decently good instincts. She fouls too much. She is out of position on what should be basic things, but she also gets to affect shots and just kind of impose with I believe it is a 6'11" wingspan, or it's 6'10" or 6'11".
Long.
It's one of those two. I know I have it written down somewhere. She gets to impose with that in a way that others, don't and can't, and that is a useful WNBA skill. She will rack up stocks.
Yeah.
She will rack up fouls. She will blow layups.
Pretty much. She's filling the Breonna Turner role.
I was going to say that's Brianna Turner. That's also Monique Billings.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have at least one of them in Phoenix.
She also, I think, has weak hands. Very weirdly bad rebounder for being 6'6".
That would make sense. I don't think isn't she 6'4" and not 6'6"?
Oh, you might be right.
I'm pretty sure she's 6'3", 6'4".
And just has like an insane wingspan for that height.
Yeah, just long.
I
Big,
have
long,
this written down
long.
here. She's 6'4" with a 6'11" wingspan. AKA the Stewie. Because Stewie does not have a 7'1" wingspan.
No, she made that up when she was 16 and tweeted it, and
Holly Rowe
ESPN
believed her.
ran with it for a decade.
It's impressive.
Me when I lie on the internet for fun.
Genuinely, the starting point of that is a tweet from Breanna Stewart when she was 17 in high school.
Okay, in a moment, we'll continue on with the rest of this redraft. Consensus top 6 as far as just the players, but it'll kind of open up very much from here. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers with highlight-worthy performances. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play and win big. Which players are showing up the biggest moments, and how could you track their trends, help build your next bet? That's whenever FanDuel comes into play. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect way to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, to continue on with this kind of redraft, number 7, who do you have here?
I have Maya Caldwell.
I have Dana Evans.
I have Dana Evans right after Maya Caldwell.
I have Maya Caldwell right after Dana Evans.
Do you also have a tier drop off after that?
I have one more player in there that I know that I'm higher on than you.
It's Ileana Repair, isn't it?
It's Repair, yeah.
Have you guys mentioned a walk at all?
Yep.
I talked about a walk a long time ago.
Well, I haven't mentioned where I had a walk ranked.
Yeah, ranked. I mean, as far as ranked.
No, I have a walk ranked lower, 2 tiers below this.
My number 7 is Repair.
Okay, so you're with Lincoln.
She's big and shooty.
But she's such a terrible defender and can't do anything other than hit threes.
But there are teams that need somebody that's big and shooty.
But she's tall for what?
Making threes.
Can't block her threes.
High release point, yeah.
But
Okay, you're looking at this crop of players where you got Maya Caldwell.
I would rather have Caldwell and Evans, for sure.
We're entering
So
the
would Lincoln.
deeply flawed zone.
Caldwell is like a non-factor on offense.
Right, but she exists. It's much easier. It's much easier. Whatever.
You're saying it's easier to build around a wing that struggles to shoot sometimes than it is to build around a center that can't guard.
Well, you're not building around
Or
those
anything
players.
else other than
They're
threes.
They're just like playing 5 minutes a game.
I think it's way harder to fit Ileana Repair into a lineup that is supposed to be good than Maya Caldwell.
I mean, ideally, none of these
Which
players.
we've proven several times. We proved it in LA and we're proving it in Atlanta. Actually, also proved it in Atlanta a second time. The player I have in between Repair, like basically bridging a tier between Repair and Caldwell Evans, is Maureen Fatou.
Yeah.
Obviously has not played in the W. Her
I don't
rights
think
have
she
been owned,
wants to
but
play.
I wouldn't if I was her. She seems to be enjoying France. France is a nice place to be. Nice people there.
Yeah.
She's been really good in France. She's a very good offensive player, shooter generally, decent playmaker. She's super fast. She also can't defend for crap, which basically no French guard can.
Hey.
Layla Lacan.
Yeah, Lacan erasure. It's not nice.
Lacan is basically the exception to that rule. But yeah, I would much rather have a point guard who can't defend than a center who can't defend, and that's why Fatou is above Repair.
Reasonable. Speaking of centers who can't defend, Raquel Carrera was drafted one spot ahead of Natasha Mack in this draft. She might be good. She might not be. She could be.
She might be decent. Wait, what are we up to now? 10?
Yeah, for me,
in that range.
I have mentioned 11 names. I have a walk next to Repair. Sorry.
Yeah, for me it's Repair, Evans, Caldwell, Awaka 10. And then
We're about the same. I just have Fitho in the middle.
yeah, then who's 11 for you?
We've mentioned my 11 because I
Oh.
have Fitho.
Any 12?
Didi
What about 12?
Richards.
Didi Richards, I have 13, right behind Aurelia Garantes, who are both roll 2s.
Didi
Basically-
Richards is, remember what we just said about Ileana Repair? Reverse the entirety of it.
Yeah,
Do anything but kind of defend 4 positions.
yeah. Like, these are 2 players who are good enough at playing basketball to be able to compete in a training camp, to be able to push young players who are like borderline internationals or whatever. But if you're playing them WNBA minutes, they're going to be far from the worst player in league history, but it's going to be closer than it should be. And that's more than I can say for literally any other player in this draft class, and that's why they're the last 2 players I have ranked.
Now to answer something on the screen, how many players would you have to get to Charlie Collier?
Among busts and top.
No, on this redraft right here. Where would she be ranked for you?
Well, I stopped ranking after players who don't actively harm your team.
I'd take
I'd take Jasmine Walker.
A couple more.
Yeah,
I would take Jasmine Walker. I would take Aaliyah Wilson. I would take
Kiana
Stephanie
Williams.
Watts. Yeah, I'm scrolling down. I'd take Kiana Williams.
Some of these players don't play basketball anymore, I don't think.
I would take Destiny
Right.
Slocum.
Yeah, Slocum for sure.
That's probably where I would cut it off.
One
So
more
we're at, like,
undrafted
18.
international you can probably take over Charlie Collier. Maxwell Elisao Mbaka, a Belgian, starts for the national team, played in Spain and averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. That's somebody you can probably take over Charlie Collier.
You can take a lot of it, yeah. Maybe Kaiser, if we're being quite honest.
So
Which is, it's a good time to talk about what the draft actually looked like at the time.
Kaiser was like the shock pick.
One in a series. It was Kaiser was
nobody saw that one.
people had her in second round of mock drafts.
Yes,
mostly late second
I had
round.
her in the second round.
Yeah.
This was, I mean, so the Fever make the wrong pick in 2020. You can go. Lauren Cox's career is affected by injury, but the injury happens in her I believe it's her junior year at Baylor. So this is something you could have seen coming. What you can't see coming is her getting COVID, and based on her play afterwards, I'm not going to speculate on a player's medicals. It is entirely possible. I'm not saying probable, but it's entirely possible she was affected by long COVID afterwards.
Mhm.
That
But
being
if
said,
they drafted Kennedy Carter, they might not have got Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark.
sure. Well, that would have meant they were better.
So
They made the wrong. So you're proving my point. They made the wrong pick in 2020. I think a number of people who are very good
Wait,
scouts on the public side said that at the time. So Kaiser is sort of number 2 in this series of what is Catch doing picks.
but the Kennedy thing just depends if she fights someone on Indiana instead. Like if she doesn't
If they
fight,
drafted Queen Egbo the next year still, who knows? Anything could have happened.
because if she
I mean, they still had Erica Wheeler.
Because if she fought anyways, like I don't think they add any more wins. Because Atlanta wasn't good either way. Like whenever
Right,
they
but
had
Kennedy,
her.
you're forgetting the wobble.
They weren't that good though.
Yeah.
Kennedy was.
But they didn't add wins. I'm not adding wins.
I'm just saying this is the second year in a row where it was
Oh.
pretty obvious to smart people that Indiana made not only like the wrong pick, and then this was like more insane.
Well,
Oh,
they're 3 years in a row of what is Indiana doing? The third one kind of worked because Lexi Hull is good now.
Genuinely, yeah. Well, here's the thing. They fired Catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They took Kelsey in 2019, and that was the right pick, right? No, Kelsey was
2018.
18.
And that was most likely the right pick.
Oh, sorry. They took what was entirely the wrong pick at the time, and in 2019 they took Big T, Tierra McCowan.
They did indeed over several better players.
Basically, Enrique and Fee were were sort of the given where scouting is currently on the public side. That is obviously the wrong pick today. Given where it was at that time, that was about where McCowan was mocked. So it wasn't a shock. Although, again, given today's standards, it maybe wouldn't be a shock, but it would be obviously wrong.
I'll never understand the whole, well, she's a tweener with Nafisa Collier, who was maybe the most productive player on that UConn team, the post Stewie dynasty. Her
She had
numbers
everything.
are absurd.
You can't be a tweener if you have a 6'6" wingspan. That's a
Right.
4, if not a
Yeah.
5.
And she was like what was she, like 70% from 2 or something? Like,
Yeah,
she
she
was like,
shot 60% from the field and put up absurd numbers across the board.
The
And
most
people are
insane
like,
development arc in scouting history.
"But 6'1".
Speaking of tall centers who aren't, the best players in their class, just like looking at how this draft went, I teased this in the beginning. Charlie Collier was very early the consensus number 1 in terms of in legacy media. That was the pick. And basically every mock draft you could look at, if you looked at,
it got out pretty much.
yeah, if you look at ESPN, if you look at High Post Hoops, which was the precursor to the Next, that was what it was. If we're talking about mock drafts, that's one thing. Yeah. If you talk about mock drafts, it's one thing, but the people were also saying she will go number 1, correct, and she should go number 1, which a lot of us disagreed with. Myself, I vehemently thought she was number 4 at best at the time. That's not even including a walk career. Eric Nemchok at friend of the pod, Eric Nemchok at
Swish Appeal.
Thank you, Swish Appeal, which is the SB Nation site. Also had Natasha. I think he might have had Mac number 1. He didn't have Collier number 1.
The mock draft I saw, I think he did have Mac number or Collier number 1, but I don't know about his big boards.
Thank you. He didn't have our eval number 1. That's correct, because the mock was the mock. Peter Kilkelly over at 5 Out Basketball had Mac number 1. So there was disagreement. I know people who in the industry who had Airy or walk 1. On the industry side, in terms of things, basically what would have happened in the draft is if any combination of picks that were owned by any teams happened other than Dallas having 1 and 2, a walk goes 1 and Collier probably goes 2. It's just because Charlie Collier was the hometown kid who stayed in state for school, and Dallas had number 1 and number 2. It didn't matter who they picked 1 and 2. So you get the media thing, which honestly, good on them. That was good, both PR for the team, and it's a nice narrative.
Well, that pick was traded. The number 1 overall pick was traded several times before the draft, because this was the New York number 1 pick.
Yeah,
traded
twice
for Natasha Howard to Seattle, and then Seattle traded it to Dallas for Katie Lou Samuelson, and the pick that later became Lorella Kubaj. Nobody wanted this pick.
It's not that nobody wanted a walk career. Again, because if New York or Seattle keep this pick, it's a walk career. It's not Charlie Collier. Right. It's not that nobody wanted her. It's just, relative to maybe we get Natasha Howard. Maybe we get
Katie Lou Samuelson.
Anyways, thanks for making Locked On Basketball your first listen every day or your second listen. We appreciate our second listeners, and we'll see you next time.